You're being removed from the client chain. Effective immediately. That was the subject line. No greeting, no warning, just that. I was still in my Uber from the airport, watching the gray blur of downtown Chicago through the fogged-up window. I hadn't even made it home yet. My phone buzzed again. Slack, Teams, Gmail, one after another. Notifications stacking like dominoes that spelled doom. At the third red light, I opened the email. Given the sensitivity of recent allegations, we're pausing your access to the internal systems while we assess the situation. Allegations? What the hell were they talking about? I hadn't even spoken to anyone outside my team this week. I'd been in San Diego, working 16-hour days at the Q2 data systems rollout. I had the screenshots, I had the hours. Hell, I had the blisters on my palm from lugging a server rack that no one else volunteered to touch. I texted Richard Wolf, my boss of 8 years. Just landed. What's going on? What allegations? No reply. By the time I stepped into my apartment, the kettle was still warm from the timer, the plant still damp from the auto-watering system. Everything looked just as I left it, except the air felt wrong. Too still. Too watchful. I went into the kitchen to unpack groceries. Tessa's almond milk, her flaxseed bread, the silly cinnamon candles she liked, and tried to shake off the anxiety pooling in my gut. Then the front door opened without knocking. Alina walked in first, eyes glassy, breathing hard like she'd sprinted from her car. She didn't even glance at me, just stormed straight into the living room, pacing like a prosecutor rehearsing a monologue. Tessa followed behind her, face pale, lips tight. I blinked. What's going on? Alina turned toward me slowly, theatrically, and dropped a line so casually it didn't feel real. Adrian got me pregnant. Silence. I looked from her to Tessa, confused. Wait. What? I'm pregnant, Alina said again, more forcefully, as if repetition made it true. And it's yours. Tessa didn't say a word, not even a gasp. She just stared at me, dead-eyed, like I was already a chalk outline on the floor. I took a step back. That's insane. What are you— Before I could finish, she slapped me. Hard, open palm, across the face. The sound cracked the room. My jaw tilted. The grocery bag slipped from my hand, almond milk bursting on the floor like a white bomb. Tessa, I rasped, stunned. You really think— Her brothers, Jared and Marcus, burst in next. Had they been waiting outside? I didn't even get to blink before Jared grabbed my left arm, Marcus my right. I tried to yank back, but they were twice my size, and I was still in airport shoes. Get your hands off me, I shouted. Marcus slammed me against the fridge. You disgust me, Jared spat. You were family. I didn't do anything, I yelled. Alina sniffed and lowered her gaze like she'd just revealed a great shame. Tessa stood there, arms crossed, watching them drag me out the door. She didn't blink, didn't speak. Not one question, not one doubt. Outside, neighbors peered through curtains. A teenager across the street pointed a phone at us. I caught the shimmer of a recording lens as Jared punched me in the gut. My knees buckled. I gasped, more from betrayal than pain. Trash like you doesn't belong in our family, Marcus growled, shoving me into the pavement. My palms scraped concrete. Blood, bone, disbelief. They left me there. I don't remember how long I sat on the curb, my breath ragged, mind whirring in reverse. Tessa's voice echoed inside me like a courtroom verdict. I don't need proof. I have a sister. By nightfall, the group chats I once managed had kicked me out. The Slack admin privileges were gone. Someone posted a cryptic thread on Reddit. Another tech bro caught sleeping with his wife's sister. Welcome to Betrayal season. No name, but just enough breadcrumbs for anyone to guess. I stayed silent, not because I didn't want to scream, but because I knew Once someone believes a lie, even silence looks guilty. The next morning, I returned to the apartment to pack. Tessa had changed the locks. I stood outside with a duffel bag and a swelling on my cheek, staring at the Ring camera blinking red. For a second, I raised my hand to knock, but I lowered it. What was the point? Instead, I left a sticky note on the door. It read, "You didn't even ask." I slept in my car that night. In the morning, I checked my email at a gas station. Another message from HR. Due to public reputational risks and internal backlash, your employment will be placed under formal review. Backlash? I hadn't even posted on social media. But the whispers had grown legs and teeth, and they were running wild. I clicked into Reddit. There it was. Thread title. What happens when the perfect guy isn't so perfect? The top comment. These guys hide in plain sight. Burn it all down. My chest tightened. I looked at the timestamp. 10 minutes ago. Someone had just shared a photo of me from a holiday party. Blurred background, but unmistakably me. The internet had decided. And the company? They were already sharpening the axe. Given the morality clause embedded in your signed NDA... Wait, I read it again. Morality clause. Signed NDA. Possible legal review. That clause was buried in Section 14 of our internal ethics agreement, one that could trigger automatic termination if public conduct undermines brand trust. They weren't just suspending me. They were preparing to erase me. If you've ever been ignored after giving everything, type 1. Adrian realizes he's not just being punished socially, he's being maneuvered out contractually, with no proof, no voice, and nowhere safe to speak. Due to the breach of Section 14, your contract has been terminated, severance suspended pending legal review. I stared at the email, sitting alone in a corner booth of a Greyhound station in northern Illinois. Hood pulled low, Wi-Fi barely hanging on. I hadn't even opened the second coffee I bought to kill time. I just kept rereading the subject line. Terminated, suspended, review. Review of what? There had never been a report, never a formal complaint. Just whispers, speculation, a viral thread with a handful of clever insinuations. That was enough to end 8 years, 6 promotions, and a spotless track record. No call, no hearing, just one email and the quiet unraveling of my life. I checked my bank account, $29.42. Rent was $1,900. My car loan payment was overdue. Credit card maxed. They hadn't just cut me loose. They'd poisoned the well. I couldn't even apply for other jobs in tech without someone Googling my name and seeing the firestorm. I powered off the laptop, shoved it into my bag, and stared out the glass doors at the parking lot. Rain was coming down in slanted sheets, dragging gray smears across the asphalt. My phone buzzed with another blocked call. I didn't answer. The people who wanted to talk weren't calling to listen. By the next day, I was gone. I took a one-way bus to a nowhere town near the coast, one of those sleepy places whose name sounded more like a brand of canned soup than a zip code. The kind of place with no cell towers, no one asking for resumes, and no memory of viral Reddit posts. I arrived with one duffel bag, 2 pairs of shoes, and no plan. The harbor smelled like salt, rust, and motor oil. Boats creaked on their ropes like old men groaning in their sleep. A wooden sign swung overhead. Ben's Docks, clean nets, clean slates. I stood outside the small tool shed until a gruff voice called out from behind the ropes. You looking for work or trouble? Whichever pays, I replied. Ben was in his 60s, wore gloves like they were part of his skin, and didn't ask about my past. He pointed at a stack of filthy nets and said, Gloves are in the shed. Don't bleed on my decks. For the next 8 hours, I scrubbed the rot out of fishing nets while gulls screamed above and salt burned my hands raw. And for the first time in weeks, no one looked at me like a headline. I was just a man with a job that didn't require trust, only effort. Nights were the hardest. I rented a tiny attic room from an old innkeeper who didn't care about references as long as I paid in cash. The walls were thin, the mattress sloped in the middle, and the single window overlooked the pier like a broken lighthouse. I sat there every night, staring at the moon-drenched sea and writing in a leather notebook. Not full entries, just fragments. She didn't blink, not even once. Truth is useless when no one waits to hear it. I'm not rebuilding. I'm resurfacing. Clara found me 2 weeks later. She was Ben's daughter, maybe mid-30s, with oil under her fingernails and a mind like a spreadsheet. She'd seen me sketching diagrams in my notebook between net scrubbings and asked if I could help fix her business inventory. "Your dad pays me to lift dead weight," I said. "My dad pays you because no one else would last more than a day," she shot back. "But you've been here 2 weeks and haven't complained once. You're either hiding something or you're a masochist. Either way, I need you." She handed me a stained binder full of handwritten receipts, expired license numbers, and 3 versions of a parts order log. I took the challenge like a life preserver. That night, I borrowed an old laptop from the town library, stayed up until 4 a.m., and rebuilt Clara's entire system in Google Sheets and Notion. By morning, she had a live dashboard with reorder alerts, license expiry reminders, and item-level tagging. Her jaw dropped. "Are you a software guy or a magician?" I shrugged. "Used to be something like that." She offered me real cash and more hours, and that was the beginning. Within a month, I was quietly building again. A fisherman asked me to set up a digital calendar for charter bookings. Then a local diner wanted an online menu with delivery options. Then a florist needed inventory management. I never advertised, never printed cards. But word traveled faster than Wi-Fi in small towns. They called me Miles, the name printed on the back of the old work shirt I found in a donation bin. I didn't correct them. Letting go of Adrian felt like shedding a rusted identity that no longer fit. Miles was neutral, quiet, just a man with clean code and calloused hands. And for a while, that was enough. Then, one Tuesday, I received a message from an old college friend. "Hey, off the record, was it true?" That was it. No context, no compassion, just curiosity dipped in suspicion. I stared at the message for 10 minutes before deleting it. The next morning, I checked my P.O. box and found a package. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. I hesitated, then plugged it into the borrowed laptop and hit play. It was her voice, Alina's, laughing. "I told them he did it because I was tired of him looking like the good one. He looked at me like I was nothing, so I made him into nothing. Simple." She was drunk, slurring, giggling. The timestamp was from months ago. Someone had saved it, forwarded it, buried the truth, then dug it up again. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I backed up the file and slid the drive into a hidden pocket in my bag. Not for revenge, just proof that I hadn't imagined it, that the world really did spin sideways because of one jealous woman's lie. I walked to the dock that night and stood under the full moon. Salt air, cold wind, no judgment, and I whispered to the sea, "I'm not gone. I'm just becoming untraceable. If you've ever had to rebuild from nothing, type 2. The knock came during a thunderstorm. Not just a polite tap. No, it was frantic, sharp, as if the fists behind it were trying to punch through the wood and memory both. I froze mid-keystroke. I'd been deep in code, finalizing a security framework for a Zurich-based client. The cursor blinked, waiting on me, but my hands had already stopped. Another knock, then a voice. "Adrian, please." I hadn't heard that name, my name, spoken aloud in 3 years. Not here. Not in this harbor town where people only knew Miles, the quiet web developer who rebuilt fishing calendars and school notice boards. I moved to the door slowly, heart pounding. Thunder cracked again. Rain sheeted sideways, thick and chaotic. I looked through the peephole and there she was. Tessa. Soaked to the bone, hair plastered to her face, clutching herself like she was holding her ribs together. Her eyes wide, hollow, familiar and foreign all at once. I didn't move, just stared. "Please," she whispered again. I know you're in there." Her voice cracked on the second word. I opened the door slowly, not out of pity, not out of curiosity, out of a strange, calm readiness. I'd imagined this moment once or twice, her returning, desperate, eyes searching for someone she abandoned in a different life. She flinched slightly when she saw me. I was different, leaner, older, eyes harder, beard fuller, but mostly I was still. She stepped forward instinctively, but I didn't move. She caught herself and froze in the doorway. "I've been looking for you," she said. My voice was flat. "How'd you find me?" She hesitated. "Hired someone. Took time. But when I heard the truth, when I got the recording," I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like someone stepping back into a museum of their own guilt. The small workshop apartment was clean, minimal, a desk, a couch, a shelf of sea glass and hand tools. No photos, no signs of shared history. "Why now?" I asked. "Because—" "I didn't know," she said, almost whispering. "About the recording, about what she did." I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the drawer, pulled out the USB I'd kept for over 2 years, and handed it to her. "I already know," I said. She stared at it like it might bite her. How long have you had this?" 2 years. Her mouth dropped open. "And you didn't tell anyone?" "No." "Why?" I sat down. "Because the truth wouldn't have fixed what you did." She looked like I'd slapped her. "Adrian." I raised a hand. "Don't. Not yet." She took a seat across from me, still dripping, still shaking. "You knew and stayed silent all this time?" she asked. "Yes." "Why?" I met her eyes. "Because I wanted to know which mattered more to you, your guilt or my silence." She flinched. It landed hard. "I didn't come to beg," she murmured. "I know I can't fix this, but when I heard her voice, laughing, mocking everything, mocking you, I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore." "You didn't hesitate to believe her," I said. "I was scared," she snapped. "You were so calm that day. It felt—" "Staged?" I offered. She blinked fast. "No, like you weren't surprised. And Alina, she said you cornered her, that you pressured her." And that was all it took. Tessa looked down. "I didn't want to believe it, but I did. And I ruined you." "No," I said quietly. "You let me be ruined. That's different." The silence between us thickened like molasses. Neither of us moved. Then I added, "I know about your divorce, about your mother disowning you, about Jared losing his job, Marcus bankrupt, Eloise removed from her charity board." Her mouth fell open. "You've been watching?" "No. I've just been listening. The same way none of you did for me." She leaned forward. "I didn't come here for sympathy." "Good," I said. "Because you're not getting any." She paused. "Do you think we could ever—" I cut in before she finished. "No." She swallowed. "Right." She stood slowly, brushing wet hair from her face. "I deserve that," she said. "But I needed to see you, to say it to your face." "You didn't ask me anything that day," I said. "You never asked. You just reacted, and then you vanished." "I live with it every day." "Good," I said, "because I had to survive it." She didn't cry. Not this time. Just stared at the floor. "I hope you find peace," she whispered. "I already have." She opened the door to leave, but paused. "Do they know? The town? About me?" I shook my head. "No. You're just a woman who moved here. People like you. Because they don't know." She nodded once. "Thank you. For that. I didn't do it for you." A flash of lightning illuminated the space between us. Then she was gone. She came back the next day. didn't knock, just stood across the street near the workshop window, watching quietly as I finished deploying a security patch for a client's online store. I didn't acknowledge her, not out of anger, but because I didn't need to anymore. I had survived her. That night, a blog post went viral, anonymous, no names, but the story was mine, word for word, every detail, accurate, and at the bottom, attached audio file, Alina's voice, laughing, confessing. I didn't post it, but I knew who did. If someone came back after betraying you, would you even open the door? Type 3. It started with a ping, just one. From an obscure tech forum I used to lurk in before my world burned down. A trending post titled, "False accusation ruins man's life until truth surfaces." I clicked it without thinking, expecting another internet morality tale. But this one wasn't fiction, it was my life. Every detail, frighteningly precise. The accusation, the slap, the firing, the exile, the silence. It read like a ghost had documented every moment I'd tried to bury. At the bottom of the post was an embedded audio file, Alina's voice, drunken, cold, confessing. He looked at me like I was nothing, so I made him into nothing. No names, no photos, but it didn't matter. The voice was real, the timeline was accurate, the lie was exposed. By noon, the post had over 60,000 upvotes. Blogs picked it up. Podcasts dissected it. Reddit investigators went wild. Threads erupted. The comments were split at first. This can't be real. If it is, holy hell. Proof that some people weaponize victimhood. Then the trail narrowed. People who knew connected the dots, found the archived wedding photos, the LinkedIn histories, the now deleted social posts. It all unraveled fast and loud. I didn't comment, didn't claim it. I just watched the internet do what it does best, reveal and amplify. Alina vanished first. Her PR firm released a statement. "We do not tolerate any behavior that undermines the dignity of others. Ms. Dawson is no longer affiliated with this company." Her online profiles were wiped within 48 hours. Jared, Tessa's older brother, the school football coach, resigned quietly. An anonymous tip had leaked a video of the day he and Marcus dragged me outside. The caption read, "Coach teaches accountability through fists." Eloise, Tessa's mother, was voted off the board of her local women's shelter after screenshots surfaced of her Facebook comment calling me a wolf in family clothing. None of them saw a courtroom, but they were tried anyway by the same court they had once cheered, the public. Me? I stayed silent. No victory lap, no reposting, no gloating. I brewed my coffee the same way I had for years, cleaned the same code, walked the same shoreline. But people looked at me differently. At the marina, a retired dockhand placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "You didn't deserve what they did." Just wanted to say that. At the cafe, the waitress placed a warm croissant on my table and whispered, "On the house. I read something online. If it's even half true, I'm sorry. I didn't see Tessa for a week." Then one morning, I caught her reflection in the clinic window while walking past. Her posture was different. Not broken, but weighted, like someone carrying the full gravity of being believed, too late. She never approached. She didn't have to. 2 weeks after the post, a letter arrived at my workshop. No return address, just white paper, clean font, typed words. "You didn't have to do it that way, but you did. You let the truth breathe instead of turning it into a weapon. I don't deserve your kindness, but thank you for not destroying us when you had every right to. T." I folded it carefully and tucked it into the back of my notebook, next to the flash drive. Not because I forgave her, but because it was the first time she named what I had chosen, restraint. Weeks passed, then months. My tech business expanded. I hired 2 more developers, clients from 3 countries now. I taught a guest lecture on digital identity and ethics at the local college. I never mentioned my story. I didn't need to. My life was proof enough. One afternoon, I passed Tessa at the farmer's market. She was picking apples. She saw me, didn't wave, just nodded. I nodded back. That was our new language. Not friendship, not rage, just acknowledgement. One evening, as I was locking up the workshop, she approached again. "I wanted to say thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For not naming me. For not turning this place into a stage." I looked at her. "You're not mine to expose," I said. "You were never the headline, just the echo." She swallowed. "That hurts. It's not meant to. Just the truth." A pause. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I shook my head. "Hate takes energy. I stopped spending mine on you." Another pause. "I heard what happened to Alina," she said. "To my family." "I didn't do it," I replied. "I didn't even share the post." She looked at me carefully. "But you could have." I nodded. "Yes. And I still could." Her jaw tightened. "That wasn't a threat," I added. "It's a fact. One I choose not to act on." She blinked. "Why not?" "Because revenge is loud," I said. "But truth just stays. And it doesn't flinch." She turned to leave, but paused. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But you're not trying for me, and that's why it matters." She nodded and walked into the dusk. I watched until the fog swallowed her silhouette, then turned back to my door. Inside, my email pinged. A subject line from Zurich. "Final approval, 3-year retainer agreement." I smiled, then sipped my coffee, cracked my knuckles, and returned to my keyboard. No headlines, no applause. Just justice. Quiet, complete, undeniable. If you believe quiet truth is louder than revenge, type 4.